Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really special. We're actually decoding the intricate and frankly awe-inspiring blueprint of how kids grow, develop, and learn. I mean, think about it. It's this incredible journey from conception right through adolescence. And getting a grip on the core mechanics behind it, well, that changes absolutely everything about how we support and guide the next generation. Let's get right into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the core concepts of development, lay out the principles of growth, explore the forces shaping child development, and finally, look at why child psychology matters in the real world.
To do this, we're drawing directly from some incredibly comprehensive source material. We're specifically looking at the foundational academic principles of child development. So we're extracting the actual hard science of child growth here. We aren't just guessing. We're grounding this in established structural theories.
So Part 1, Core Concepts of Development, Building the Foundation. Okay, let's start with a baseline definition. Child development is the scientific study of the patterns of growth, change, and stability that occur from conception all the way through adolescence. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that this isn't just about a kid getting taller or putting on weight. No, it's a qualitative process. It maps progressive, really complex changes over time as a human being transforms from an infant into an adult.
There are three core tenets we really need to grasp here. First up, every single child is uniquely themselves. Even if two kids share similar physical features or grow up in the exact same environment, their developmental speeds, their quirks, their personalities, they're going to differ. Second, childhood literally lays the critical foundation for later life. This early stage, that's where memory, understanding, and cognitive habits are permanently forged. And third, like we just touched on, it's measured qualitatively. We're looking for shifts in capability and cognitive function, not just the simple quantitative change in physical size.
Moving on to Part 2, the principles of growth, the universal rules.
What we're looking at here brilliantly illustrates what scientists call the cephalocaudal sequence. That's a fancy term, but basically, notice how development predictably moves from the head downwards. It's fascinating. At birth, an infant first gains control of their head and facial movements. Then, by 1 to 2 months, you'll see them actively lifting themselves using their little arms. But it isn't until around 6 to 12 months that they finally gain the requisite leg control to crawl, stand, or walk. It's an incredibly orderly top-to-bottom process.
And the rules keep going. Development always proceeds from the general to the specific. For instance, think about a baby trying to grab a toy. Initially, they'll kind of bat at it with their entire generalized hand, but eventually they refine that motor skill into a super precise pincer grasp using just the thumb and forefinger. It's also a completely continuous process. It doesn't just happen in isolated random spurts. It flows constantly until maturity, and this is vital. Early development is definitively more important than later development because it sets the framework for everything that comes after. It's exactly like constructing a building, right? You can't start with the roof. Growth starts broad and continuously hones in on those specific, critical skills.
Now, one of the most fascinating aspects of growth is correlation. Development acts as a completely unified whole. You literally cannot separate the physical from the mental, or the social, or the emotional. They all depend heavily on one another. For example, a child who is physically healthy is statistically much more likely to possess superior sociability and emotional stability. It's all just completely intrinsically connected.
You know, it's also pretty wild that different parts of the body grow at vastly different rates. Like, the brain attains its full physical maturity incredibly early, usually around 6 to 8 years of age, while organs like the liver take much, much longer. Yet, despite those different rates, growth always proceeds stage by stage. A kid goes from babbling to making monosyllabic sounds, and eventually, boom, full sentence formation. Because of these distinct, universal stages, a child's development remains highly predictable, even if the exact timing varies a little bit from kid to kid.
But hey, we also have to account for individuality, right? Psychological theories help us map this dynamic out. Take the social learning theory formulated by Miller and Dollard. They posit that people learn primarily by imitating observed actions, so watching others and repeating that behavior, especially when they get positive reinforcement. On the flip side, you have Gesell's theory of maturation. That one reminds us that while kids absolutely pass through similar developmental stages, they do so entirely at their own pace. Some kids are going to walk faster than others. And you know what? That is perfectly normal.
So that begs a really, really important question. If every child follows this universal sequence, why do they develop at such vastly different rates? What are the specific variables that actually alter this universal blueprint?
Let's explore that in Part 3, Forces Shaping Child Development, the Variables.
When you get right down to it, development essentially comes down to two major battlegrounds. On one side, we have internal factors. Think of this as the genetic lottery, things like heredity, physical conditions, intelligence, and emotional makeup. On the other side, we have external factors. These are the environmental realities a child is born into, like family dynamics, the physical environment, and broader socio-economic conditions.
Let's break down those internal factors first. Heredity acts as the absolute baseline here. It heavily dictates growth and operates throughout the entire period of development to determine traits like height, weight, and the overall rate of maturation. Then you've got physical conditions, which are primarily fueled by nutrition. This directly affects the adequacy of their bones, muscles, and organs. Add to that a child's inherent intelligence, which impacts their thought processes, creative thinking, and how well they retain information. And finally, their emotional makeup. This acts like an internal regulator, dictating how well they learn to manage their own emotions and appropriately reciprocate the feelings of others.
Now, let's look at the external environment, because its impact is absolutely profound. Family plays a central role. A strong, affectionate bond helps a child develop properly and really fosters independence. But on the flip side, stressful or broken family environments can trigger learning disabilities and severely stunt emotional progress. The physical environment matters immensely too. We're talking housing quality, pollution, neighborhood crowding. These things significantly shape a child's overall behavior and health. And then, of course, socio-economic conditions. Economic privilege often opens doors to enriching opportunities. Access to better private schools, diverse hobbies, family vacations, all of that can further accelerate cognitive, physical, and social skills. It's a massive factor.
Which brings us to our final section. Why child psychology matters, the application.
Okay, so why does all this academic theory actually matter in the real world? Well, consider this quote from Mosby's Medical Dictionary. Child psychology is the study of mental, emotional, and behavioral development of infants and children. I love this authoritative definition because it reminds us that psychology isn't just some abstract textbook science. It is the ultimate practical tool for understanding the entirety of a child's lived experience. We aren't just observing how they grow physically, we're tracking their holistic mental and social journey.
For educators out there in the classroom, applying this knowledge is absolutely critical. By deeply understanding these principles, teachers can foster genuine independence and self-reliance in their students. It helps teachers respect the natural pace of development rather than, just forcing it. This allows them to accurately evaluate the specific developmental level of each individual kid. Ultimately, it empowers educators to widen their activities, designing these proper physical and psychological environments where children can engage in tasks they're genuinely interested in at a level they are actually capable of completing. It's a real game changer. And for parents, caregivers, and honestly anyone interacting with kids, child psychology is basically your roadmap. It helps you trace the psychological origins of the problems a child might be facing in their day-to-day life. It allows you to establish much more effective communication, adapt to their unique individual learning differences, and ultimately gain the essential trust and confidence of both the child and their parents. When you truly understand a specific behavior and its distinct causes, you can provide the right direction to help them develop proper, lifelong life skills.
Which leads us to our final thought. Knowing this intricate blueprint of development, how will you use this knowledge to mold the next generation? Because understanding a child's unique traits today gives us the extraordinary power to purposefully mold who they will become tomorrow. By recognizing these universal rules, we can all step up and become better architects of their future.